Nelson Biederman is not a good candidate for jail. Not that a lot of people are, I don't think. Well, that's not true. There are some guys who it seems to suit. But whatever. I'm not judging that. It's not my position. It is, but it's not in this forum. And Nelson Biederman is the kind of guy, I guess you'd call him a fish. Maybe in jail they'd call him a punk. He's the kind of guy that everybody could abuse, take advantage of. Nelson finds love for the first time in prison with a character by the name of Barry, played by Chi McBride. And, I guess in prison, there are a lot of different theories on what happens, but, some guys say that if you have a sentence of over 20 years, if you're in a gang or, whatever it is, that you have the right to then take another man as essentially your bride in jail. And that's what happens to Nelson. He becomes the property of Barry. Although Barry gets out in the movie, so maybe he's just gay, which is fine. But Nelson goes in and is not necessarily gay, but he ends up having this relationship with Barry. And it ends up actually being kind of like fairly sweet. Having Bob brings such a, we work with the script obviously every day, but Bob's very open to interpreting that anywhere. He's got a very set way of how he sees the movie, and he's got a really great understanding of what the story is and how he wants these guys to travel through that story. But at the same time, he comes from a world where the funniest thing rules, and so if you come up with something, or if he thinks of something in the moment, he's really open to discussing that, or going there, or changing it up, or he'll come in with a new idea. He's always in the moment trying to think of what the funniest thing is for the scene, and that's awesome. But Dax has really brought a great. He's really brought Lashitsky to life, and he has a really great understanding of who this guy is, and this guy's just kind of he's not really a badass per se. He's just kind of this wiry jerk, bad apple, and I think you probably get the real tough sense out of what I'm going for when I say the word jerk. I think a lot of people are agreeing with me. But Dax brings such an interesting side to it. You really see when he's playing Lashitsky, he really brings so many different layers to that character. It's been pretty awesome to work with. Chi McBride, one of the things that we had talked about was the idea that the role of Barry, if he were to come in and be, there is a potential for it to get too cartoony. And from day one, Chi showed up, and he brought such great realism to the character of Barry, and he was such an emotionally rich character, not something that we were really expecting. I mean, we wanted, but I did not know what to expect at all. Just because that character had that danger of going that direction, and Chi came in and brought this, just this awesome performance, and he's so specific on Barry and Barry's relationship to Nelson and Barry's relationship to the prison, and it can be in one moment really sweet to Nelson, and in the next just be kind of brutal in the prison. So it's really great to watch, and it makes my job and all the other actors' jobs way easier because he's so easy to play off of. Yeah, we're shooting in Joliet Prison. Joliet Prison, it's funny. I realize my character has no business being in prison, and I realize ultimately I have no business being in prison. We're here shooting a movie. There's nothing more pansy that you can do, and yet, man, I'm like, God, every day I drive out of here, I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. So I realized that I would fare really pretty poorly in prison. It's a really imposing structure, the walls and stuff, and you realize that they do that so that when you first come into prison that you will be awed by the size of it, and that will sort of bring you down as a person. And when you go in a cell and you shoot a scene and you're in there all day and you think, God, this is cramped, and you realize guys spend 25, 30, 40 more years in there, you realize what a what an incredible thing that is, and how incredibly difficult that would be. So it's, you know, the prison really is like this other character in the film that's kind of always there, and it's been, I don't